A souffle is like a cloud in a dish, light and airy, yet fleeting in its perfection. You can make it with a pudding on the inside or firm throughout. Have you seen Capt Breadhook? Not since she found that starfighter in the back of the pantry. Have you seen Chessy Cheesecake? You expected? Butter your dish all over and give it a coating of powdered sugar. This is going to let it slit right on up as it rises in the oven. We're putting a parchment paper collar on this one, help guide the rise. Little scotch tape to hold the paper too. And here's a nifty trick to hold the string as you tie the bow. Flip it over twice. It holds the string on itself so you can tie the bow tight. And separate 5 eggs. This is the firm one, by the way. Put 5 whites in your mixing bowl and 4 yolks in the other. You don't need the 5th yolk. Melt a 1/4 cup of butter in your favorite saucepan. Whisk in 3 tablespoons of flour. And when it's all smooth, drizzle in a cup of hot milk. Add in 1/2 cup of sugar and cook it for 3 minutes. Add in your yolks, 1 at a time, whisking constantly. Let it thicken some more and pour it into a metal bowl to cool to at least 80 degrees. Metal doesn't keep the heat like glass does. You can put it in the fridge to speed it up. Just give it a whisk every once in a while to keep its skin from forming. Almost forgot the vanilla extract. This is also the spot where you're going to add different flavors too. Right. Lemon, chocolate, orange and chocolate, orange with chocolate topping. Your imagination is the limit. The force is strong in this one. Hey, what's this button for? Keyboard! Dangnabbit! Add in a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar and whisk on medium speed. It makes smaller, more stable bubbles. You want to whisk until they're foamy all the way through to the bottom and you have stiff peaks. Nope, not yet. That's egg white soup. There you go. See the mountain peaks? Add about 1/3 of the yolk mixture to your whites and fold it in some. Add in the rest and fold it all the way in. You run your spatula underneath and trail up the batter over top. It folds it over. Now you know why it's called folding. Turn the bowl and keep folding. Every once in a while, we cut down through the middle to check for anything that might be hiding in the central fusion there. Pour it into your bowl and bake for 30 minutes. It's supposed to deflate like this. Matter of fact, it deflates within 10 minutes of leaving the oven. Rush it to the table so the drama happens there. I'll just sneak in here quiet as a church mouse. I should have worn my seatbelt. This one has a pudding in the middle and it goes together very similarly, except it uses a hot water bath. Hey, take it away, Marina. You'll need 2 mixing bowls for this, unless you want to do dishes in between. Add your sugar in here and your vanilla extract. And beat it until it's nice and thick. See how it falls back on itself? We make the roux the same way. Flip your yolks to high speed and drizzle in your roux. You can also spoon it in if it's easier. And this button. Woo! Uh-oh. Thanks a lot, Buzz.
Anytime, Jesse.
And watch this. Here's a nifty way to get your whisk out of the bowl all cleaned up for you. Fold it together. This way doesn't need a collar. And bake for 15 minutes at 400 degrees, then dial down your oven to 375 and bake for 30 minutes longer. Can't believe how good this is. Stay tuned for part 2 next week. Share our video with a friend. Leave a comment. Good idea. Our twilight pie has a meringue crust surrounded by chocolate custard. The coolest part is you make the crust and go to bed. Oh no, I pushed the wrong button. Ah! Go get her. I haven't seen Capt Breadhook anywhere recently. I know she found that starship in the back of the pantry, and we haven't heard hide nor hair ever since. Separate 5 eggs. Put the whites in your mixer bowl and save the yolks for later. And preheat your oven to 400 degrees right now. The coolest thing about this recipe is that you can easily change up the flavors and bake it your own. I know, this pie is great. Plain vanilla custard, white chocolate, add lemon zest and lemon juice, caramel, butterscotch. Your imagination is the limit. I heard she crashed her ship. I bet she can fix it. This will do it! Ah! Add a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt and 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. And whisk this all together until it's foamy all the way through to the bottom. This is called a French meringue, by the way. And there'll be a stiff mountain peak in your bowl. Oops, almost forgot about the prepare your pan part. Liberally spray your pie dish with baking spray with flour and generously coat it with powdered sugar. And back at your mixer, slowly drizzle in 1.5 cups of sugar, a tablespoon at a time. This lets the sugar granules dissolve. And whisk this to very stiff peaks. You can hear the motor in your mixer start to struggle when you're getting there. Add in your extract too. 1 teaspoon will do just fine. And look at that super stiff mountain in the middle there. That'll make any porn star jealous. And the real test. Big Val loves this. And here's a trick to getting your whisk clean out of the bowl. Let your mixer run while you slowly lift the head up. Then just tap off the top remaining. This time she won't know what's hit her. Say goodbye, Captain Breadhook. We love this part. We love piping. You can scoop it in and spread it around with an offset spatula, but piping is so much more fun. We're using an open star tip this time. Last night we used a 1/2-inch open tip and made little kisses around the rim. Now we're trying the tiny meringue kisses. There is plenty meringue to get as creative as you like. This is the time to go for it. We had a little left over, so we made some small kisses to decorate with later. Put it all in the oven and turn it off. Don't open the door to peek at all. This is kind of cool to see how it turns out later. It's not gonna bake per se, but more or less dry out like a pavlova. It'll have some marshmallowness to it. And just turn off your oven, and I'll see you in the morning. Jum forgot fuses. Uh-oh! Frida, we can use the shell we made last night. No nappy poo today. It's turned out cool. I know, it's so cool. In the top of a double boiler, and I'll show you what that is in a minute, mix all your dry ingredients together. That's 1 cup of sugar, a 1/3 cup of cornstarch, and a generous pinch of kosher salt. And in a large measuring cup, 2 cups of heavy cream, your yolks, an egg, and whisk that all together and add it in. Place your metal bowl over hot water. It's eventually going to get to boiling, and stir constantly. This is your double boiler. Nothing happens for a really long time, and then all of a sudden it starts to thicken up. That's right around 160 degrees. We switch back and forth between the whisk and the spatula. Don't let it clump up. And between 160 and 180 is where the magic happens. After it reaches 160, cook it for 3 to 5 minutes longer to make sure you cook out all that cornstarch taste. The sun will come out tomorrow. Add in your chocolate and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. You're like, what? The vanilla enhances the chocolate. Chill it in the fridge for a few hours and let it set up. And then, voila! Space rats again? Better check the traps. Leave a comment, you scallywags! Oh, it's tricky getting 4 shots of rum in this cake. You try it at home. Well, that should do it. Sabotage, sabotage, sabotage. Jum sabotage. I heard Capt Breadhook repaired her spaceship. Really? She might get home soon. I heard the force is good with her. We're making the butterscotch sauce first, so it has time to cool down. In your favorite saucepan, melt a 1/2 cup of butter and 1 cup of brown sugar. 1 cup of heavy cream. Simmer it on medium heat. And once it starts to bubble around the edge, cook it 4 to 6 minutes longer. It'll bubble up something fierce, so make sure you have room for it in your pan. We didn't add any of the rum here because all the alcohol would cook off. Well, what's the purpose of that then? Add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and let it cool. We put it in the freezer and gave it a nice stir every once in a while. Wow! What? Whoa! Now we make the main batter, and watch this. Not everything has to be at room temperature. I know, this is so easy. And we're gonna put all 4 shots in. We're gonna put all 4 in. It'll be hard for a drunk to screw up. Beat all your wet ingredients. 1 cup of butter and 5 eggs. 1 cup of sour cream. Sour cream goes in the dry ingredient measuring cup. You can't overmix these. And our cold sour cream caused our butter to harden back up. And in another bowl, Sift 3 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar, a teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and whisk that all around. Mix in all your dry ingredients and add 3 tablespoons of rum.
Oh, let's just put the whole thing in. You only live once.
And fold in 1 cup of chopped pecans.
Way, hey, and up she rises, way, hey, and up she rises, way, hey.
We always like to wait to the last minute to grease and flour our pan. It's a good idea in case our kitchen's too hot and it doesn't give the flour any time to slide down the sides. Plus, half the time we forget. Big Val gets too excited about baking. We brush on melted shortening and tap flour around the whole thing. Then we tap out the excess in the sink. To your butterscotch sauce, mix in 2 cups of the main batter, a package of instant butterscotch pudding mix, and an egg. And there is your swirl batter. Put a layer of the main batter and the swirl batter. Then take a knife or a spatula and fold it around some. Then you do it again. It always turns out different whenever you make this, so that's like really cool. Our pan is about a cup too small. You should fill these pans 3/4 of the way full to allow room for expansion. Wait till you see the muffin top we got. Bake for 80 to 90 minutes or until a skewer comes out clean. Oh, and it'll get like a hard, crunchy crust on top, so make sure you're not wiping off your skewer when you pull it out. Let it cool in the pan for 45 minutes. Whoa, yeah! Then let it cool on the counter until it's under 100 degrees. This is nice. You know, I should really let out the trash before I get home. Now drizzle your rum all over that cake. We weren't sure we could get the rest of the rum on the cake without making it all soggy and gross. Carefully pour and drizzle it a shot at a time. Aren't these the cutest bottles? Look at that. Smells like a booze factory in here. We still have to make that glaze that goes on top. Right, let's wait a moment. Let it soak in. On low to medium heat, melt a 1/4 cup of butter and a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. We use dark brown sugar for this whole recipe because it goes really good with the rum. But you can use light brown sugar if that's what you need to use up in your pantry or something. Simmer this while stirring constantly. Add in a tablespoon or so of milk if it gets too thick. And gradually add in 1 cup of powdered sugar. Okay, 4th one. Here, we'll put the rest in here. I think we need to put some more powdered sugar in it now. It's a little too runny. We'll get it right. And let it drip down the sides. This is almost as fun as piping. and decorate it with more chopped pecans.
Oh, Dum-Dum, get better. Dum-Dum. Oh my gosh.
Look, we can tell who's the teetotaler in this family.
Oh my gosh.
Boop the like button and leave a comment.
Oh. Wow.
Our good friend Dorothy May asked us for the Southern Classic, all from scratch.
What? No more Miss Nice Alien. Dum-Dum, finish the job.
Capt Breadhook is way out there. Oh, Capt Breadhook's always in another galaxy. I heard she's on her way home. It'd be nice to have her back. To your cup of butter, add 8 ounces of cream cheese at room temperature. And the safest way to do this is plop it and your eggs in a bowl of warm water. Like 10 minutes, they'll be ready. Right, the safest way. Then add the zest and juice of a tennis ball sized lemon. We needed 2 of them. These are little lemons, that's right. And be careful not to go down to the white part, because that's bitter. Beat in 3 cups of sugar and 5 eggs. You don't have to worry a little bit about over mixing this part, because we haven't added any flour. That's next. Oh, and scrape down your bowl after each addition.
I'll blow it up to smithereens.
And in another bowl, sift together 3 cups of cake flour and half a teaspoon of baking powder. Add half a teaspoon of kosher salt too. And 1 tablespoon of lemon extract. And beat in all your dry ingredients. Add a 1/4 cup of milk. Now, grease and flour your pan. We always like to wait to the last minute to grease and flour our pan. It's a good idea in case your kitchen is too hot and it doesn't give the flour any time to slide down the side. Plus, half the time we forget. We brush on melted shortening and tap flour around the whole thing. Then we tap out the excess into the sink. And then bake for 90 minutes or until a skewer comes out clean, and place it in the middle of the oven too. Finally out of that mess. Whoa! I'll be back on Earth in no time. The glaze goes together real fast. 1 cup of powdered sugar and the juice of a lemon until it's to the dripping consistency that you like. We didn't let the cake cool down enough the first time, and you can see it's just like flowing right off it. We made up another batch and put it on when the cake was below 90 degrees. Much better, right? Oh my gosh, it's got so much lemon flavor. This is amazing. Boop that bell and share this with a friend. Here is our easy way to combine 2 dreams for mascarpone cheese, Swiss meringue buttercream. I know, I love mascarpone cream. Happy, happy, happy tea. Whisk 8 ounces of pasteurized egg whites on medium speed until they're foamy all the way through to the bottom. You'll see a nice mountain peak in your bowl when you lift your whisk. Then add in a 2-pound bag of powdered sugar. See? Easy. I I know. I think I'm going to make this my go-to frosting. It's so easy. You don't even have to measure. If you add it in all at once, your whisk can send powdered sugar all over your kitchen. Hey. Space mosquitoes. And this is what egg white soup looks like, in case you're curious. Oh, and don't forget your kosher salt. It adds balance to the taste. And just like traditional Swiss meringue buttercream, add in your butter 1 chunk at a time. Add it in, let it whisk all the way in. A chunk is about 2 tablespoons. Add in another, let it blend all the way. Here's where we change the recipe for mascarpone cheese. We put in 1.5 cups less of butter and add in 16 ounces of the cheese. Oh, so dreamy. Add in your mascarpone cheese in chunks too. There's nothing complicated. And you can even pipe flowers with it. We made these 3 roses and posed them on top of the cake. Notice how yellow it is. That's because of the butter. The trick there is to add a tiny bit of purple gel food coloring. Don't add in too much or your frosting will be a lavender and there's no going back. There, you can see the difference. If you laugh, share this with a friend. You can use our mango curd recipe for any stone fruit curd. We've doubled it for the filling in our 2-tiered wedding cake.
Chum Chum, you've got one more chance. If you don't capture Captain Breadhook this time,
Capt Breadhook is on her way home. Wow, you always get the news. Kitchen loonies like to talk amongst each other. I was talking to Frida Flavor Fairy just last night. You're in the loop. Take 2 cups of fresh mango and puree it. We use an immersion blender. Then beat together 4 eggs and 4 yolks.
I will personally handle it, and you won't like the outcome. No. Wah, wah.
And in your favorite saucepan, whisk together 1 cup of sugar and 4 tablespoons of cornstarch.
4.
This way keeps the cornstarch from forming impossible lumps that you'll never get out. Add in 10 tablespoons of butter and your puree. A medium to low heat, melt that all together.
Oh, dum dum, dum 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 dum. It's better to be Chum Chum. Don't make me regret this.
As it heats up, whisk in your eggs. Whisk constantly while pouring them in so you don't have a chance to cook them into scrambled eggs. And bring this slowly up to 160 degrees. Then cook it for 3 minutes longer to get out any lingering cornstarch taste. This is also when it's going to be thickening right up. Pass it through a fine mesh sieve for a silkier texture and to catch any scrambled eggs we might have made. Cover it with plastic wrap to prevent a skin from forming. These are meltless ice cubes. They come in so handy to cool things from the top down while the fridge gets the bowl side.
Oh, brother!
Our coconut cake uses the reverse creaming method for a tender crumb, and there's coconut right in the batter.
This time, I'll handle it myself. Captain Breadhook will not escape my grasp.
Captain Breadhook is on her way home this time.
Really?
Yes, Frida got an intergalactic transmission from the USS Enterprise. She's been away for a long time. Baking spray with flour and line the bottom with parchment paper. Oh, and let me tell you how the bride and groom met. It's so millennial. Oops, I'll have to tell you in a little bit. The reverse creaming method starts with all your dry ingredients. 7 cups of cake flour. Our oven won't hold all 4 pans for the 8-inch tier and the 10-inch tier, plus 2 to 3 cupcakes. So we have to bake them in batches. But we found out that we can make all the batter at once. There's just a little trick we'll show you later. A 1/4 cup of baking powder. I know, it's a lot. Give it a whisk around to get all that baking powder spread around the bowl. 3 teaspoons of kosher salt. Kosher salt doesn't have the iodine taste that table salt has.
I am your worst nightmare, Captain Breadhook. Feel the heat of my wrath. Convection power!
Now, add in your butter in chunks, slowly. Let your chunk, which is about 2 tablespoons, break down all the way before adding in the next one. You want your butter to be at room temperature so it breaks down. Otherwise, cold butter chunks will just send flour all over your kitchen. Whisk it until you get something like breadcrumbs. Add in 5 1/2 cups of sugar. Whisk that all around. We never went higher than like a 2-speed. There's no room for anything more.
We'll add it back in.
Biddly-doo-dah, zippity-doo. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. What now? Space rats again? Or is it another one of Jum Jum's tricks? It's just too much. I'm working with you on this, Big Val. Combine your wet ingredients. 3 cups of canned coconut milk, 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of almond extract. 2 tablespoons of coconut extract. Stir that all around. Slowly add in about half. All the dry ingredients decided to gather on the inside of the whisk and have a little conference. So we changed over to the paddle attachment. Add in the rest of the dry. Your 12 ounces of egg whites. I know, it's like a whole dozen. We use pasteurized egg whites because we also need egg whites for the frosting. And the rest of the coconut milk. Fold in 2 1/2 cups of shredded coconut, and look at that! The whole bowl is like super full. Technically, a 2-layer 8-inch cake should have 4 cups of batter, and a 10-inch 2-layer cake should have 6 cups of batter. 10 cups total. Then there was the 2 to 3 cupcakes for the folks who were allergic to stone fruit. Way complicated. We just filled them a little over halfway to 2/3 and weighed each pan to make sure they were even. Oh, and these are cake strips around the pans. They're just strips of fabric soaked in cold water that change the baking process. Flat tops every time. Bake for 30 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. ha, miss me, now you gotta kiss me.
Time for plan B.
This is where we use the rest of the egg whites too. Whisk 8 ounces or 1 cup of pasteurized egg whites from the carton. Add in your salt early too, until they're foamy all the way through to the bottom. When you lift your whisk, it'll leave a stiff peak like this little mountain peak in the bowl. Add in 2-pound bag of powdered sugar, a little at a time. I know, I think I'm going to make this my go-to frosting. It's so easy. You don't even have to measure. Then add in your butter 1 chunk at a time. A chunk is about 2 tablespoons. We're using the whisk because it lightens up the butter and we like how it gets it all in there. Now for the 16 ounces of mascarpone cream. You add that a chunk at a time too. It replaces 1.5 cups of unsalted butter in the recipe. The mascarpone cheese makes this richer and creamier, if that was ever possible. Notice how yellow it is because of the butter. The trick there is to add a tiny bit of purple gel food coloring. Don't add too much or you'll turn your frosting a lavender and there's no going back. Well, this just got interesting. Let's see what this old fighter can do. Don't expect much. I found this spaceship in the back of Big Val's pantry. No! Impossible! How can this be? Jum, you useless buffoon! Here's the way it all goes together, including the internal structure. The top 8-inch tier gets a cake board, which is just food-grade cardboard. The hole in the middle is where you put the middle support, and you'll see that in a little bit. Put a few smudges of frosting on it to keep the first layer from skidding off. Spread a layer of frosting, then pipe a dam around the edge. Then your filling. We like a nice thick layer of filling. We're putting in mango curd, and you can watch that video here. Big Val is doing a semi-naked frosting for a rustic look. We use a bench scraper to make sure it's perfectly straight up and down. We'd hate to put these 2 layers together and it come out wonky. That's disaster with a capital D! And off to the freezer to chill. We're putting a white drip on each tier, and they need to be chilled for at least 30 minutes to get a controlled drip. The white chocolate drip is just a ganache. Take 8.8 ounces of white chocolate, break it up into small pieces, add 2/3 cup of hot steamy cream, and stir. The bottom layer sits on the silver cake drum. We have a couple of inches wider to leave room for flowers that we're going to put on the bottom. Insert your support plastic straws, and your center straw goes up into the top tier. That'll keep it from sliding off should something happen. Then just pipe on a decorative swirl to hide the cardboard and voila! Back to the way they met. They swiped right. Yes, Sarah and Vibov matched on Hinge. Sarah was dipping her toes back into dating, and Vibov was exhausted from going on too many dates. Sarah said, "We met up at the Cove in Hyde Park. Must be a hot date place." Drinks were mediocre, music was loud, but the weather was nice. After about an hour, Viboff offered to walk me home, and I went against my independent nature and said yes. Best idea each of us have ever had.
This isn't over, Breadhook. I'll get you just as soon as I fix this up.
Our Black Forest cake is a rich chocolate cake layered with whipped mascarpone cream, cherries, and topped with chocolate ganache and more cherries. It's inspired by the flavors of Germany's Black Forest region. Ahoy, Earth! Time to park this beauty right back where I found it. Capt Breadhook entered the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah?
That's awesome. It'll be nice to have her back. I hope she makes it this time. Sift together 5 2/3 cup of flour, 1 2/3 cup of cocoa powder, and 3 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 5 teaspoons of baking powder. Look, there's so much of it, we had to get in there with a spatula. Add 4 cups and 4/25 of sugar. We just made that last cup a heaping cup. And 1 1/4 teaspoons of kosher salt. 2 1/2 teaspoons of espresso powder. You won't taste the espresso. It just enhances the chocolate flavor. So don't worry. Mix that in well too.
You're not slipping through my fingers this time, Breadhook. Prepare for your doom.
In a separate bowl, combine everything but the hot coffee. That's 1 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 2 1/2 cups of sour cream, 5 eggs, and here's our trick to getting everything to room temperature safely. Top it off with warm water. Your water should be the same temperature as your dishwater or you'll cook your eggs. Whisk it all together. And talk about bride's cake and groom's cake. These are not like a new trend. Our original copy of the 1931 Household Searchlight recipe book has them listed on page 312. The bride's cake is an orange cake and the groom's cake is a fruit cake. Add it in a half at a time. Let it blend together and add 1 1/4 cups of hot coffee. The hot coffee is going to help the cocoa bloom into its glory. Notice Big Val raises the top head every once in a while. There's so much batter that it's possible to overmix the bottom of the bowl while waiting for the top to mix in. Raising the beater helps prevent overmixing. We could get way technical here, but we already did the math for you. We just filled them a little over halfway to 2/3 and weighed each pan to make sure they were even. Those are cake strips around the pans. They're just strips of fabric soaked in cold water, and it changes the baking process so you get flat tops every time. And bake for 35 to 40 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. I've prepared a little surprise for you. Let's see how you can handle this. Try dodging these, you overcooked crouton. Let's get started on the chocolate ganache frosting. It's real simple. It just takes forever to cool down. In a metal bowl, metal doesn't retain heat like glass does. Measure out 20 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. Add in 16 ounces of steaming heavy cream.
we made ours a little bit more chocolatey. Give it a stir and let the hot cream melt the chocolate for 5 minutes. Stir it until all the chocolate is melted, and if you don't get it hot enough to melt all the chocolate, heat up only a portion and add that back in. And to speed it up on the cooling down process, you can put it in the refrigerator or even the freezer. Just give it a stir every 5 or 10 minutes so it cools evenly. Oh, and let me tell you this about the bride and the groom. It's so interesting. The bride is an ordained minister and the groom is Hindu. Right, how does that work? Well, the Hindu religion, boiled down into simplicity, believes in one God just like Christians. But they believe God appears in different forms. Makes sense, huh? Hey, look! This model comes with the Romulan cloaking system. Hey! No! You may have dodged the mines, but you won't escape this! Then we make the whipped mascarpone cream for in between the layers to hold the cherries. Beat 16 ounces of mascarpone cream until it's nice and smooth. Switch to the whisk attachment and slowly add in 3 cups of heavy whipped cream. Add in 1 cup of powdered sugar. The cornstarch in the powdered sugar is going to help stabilize and stiffen it up some. 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract. That's impossible! Where did you go? Oh, and add 1/8 of a teaspoon to 2/3 cup of the cherry juice from the cans. We'll use this for brushing on the layers for extra moisture and goodness. Now we'll see what happens when you mess with me. Time to fry, Capt Breadhook. You're really turning up the heat, huh? Now we put it all together. We'll do the top 8-inch first. It gets a cake board because it sits on balls over top the first layer. Brush on your cherry syrup. It's not soaking it in enough, so we poke holes with the chopstick to really get it in deep. Spread your whipped mascarpone cream in a nest and make the walls high enough to hold an abundance of dark sweet cherries. We use both dark and tart. Spread a little bit on top and place the top layer upside down so you can get those sharp corners with the frosting. This layer was also soaked in cherry syrup. Then crumb coat the whole thing. Pop that puppy in the refrigerator and let the cream stiffen up. You do the same for the bottom 10-inch layer. Ours is chilled and ready for the ganache frosting. Isn't this the coolest frosting? It's so rich too. Cover it and the top tier and place them back in the refrigerator until you're ready to assemble the cake and the final touches. Time to cool things down a bit. For these pillars, just to make sure they were perfectly spaced, Big Val's folded an 8-inch parchment round in 4s, cut out a hole for the pillar, and marked the spots on the cake. We covered the balls in ganache-like bark. And the rest of them? For the chocolate bark, we melted 6.6 ounces of dark chocolate. We wanted some contrast between the semi-sweet ganache and the bark. Spread it out on a piece of parchment about 1/16 to an 1/8 thick. Let it cool a moment. and roll up the parchment paper. It sets up in about 15 minutes in the refrigerator. And we melt the ganache to stick it on. You know, there is no right way or wrong way to decorate a cake. The groom was so happy and he gave us artistic license.
It can't be. It can't be. It can't be. No, 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 no.
Back so soon, Capt Breadhook? Thought you might have got lost in space for good this time.
You know me, Willifrida. Always find me way back to the best kitchen in the galaxy. If you enjoyed this show, let us know in the comments and boop that bell.